Ten Commandments. One.
Love God.
You do you know what before me means?
Other than me,
Yeah, in front of me, like there. لا يكن لك آلهة أخرى
أمام.
أمامي. Before me يعني قدامي. مش قدامي كده. لأن هو
خير يا
ربنا.
بنت.
شايف كل حاجة. بنقول داوود بيقول له إيه؟ لأني إليك وحدك أخطأت.
شرف قدامك صح.
قدامك صنعت. لأنه احساسه إن ربنا شايف كل حاجة وبيعملها. اثنين. You shall not make for yourself carved image to worship. Number 3. You shall not utter the name of the Lord.
In vain.
Please remember those, please. Your God in vain. Are we not supposed to remember those commandments and follow them? Because we're in the New Testament? Are we not?
No, we have to. No.
That's just part of what we have to do. This is us. Number 4.
Remember.
I'm sorry, yes, the positive one. Remember
Saturday.
the Lord's Day or the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Number 5. Honor your father. This is part of what we're doing today. Father and your mother. And it has the one with the reward. To have a long life, and it shall be good with you. Six.
I think do not commit adultery. Do not commit adultery.
Before adultery. You shall not murder. القتل الأول ولا الزنا؟ القتل. Number 7, because it destroys life. You shall not commit adultery. Number 8,
Not steal.
you shall not steal. Number 9, you shall not bear false witness.
لا تشتهي لقلبك خلاص.
Number 10, you shall not
Which one?
covet anything of your neighbors, things. I'm just going to summarize it like this. There are different versions. We're going to come to talk about them. So these are the things we need to know them by heart. We definitely need to know them by heart. You cannot be a Sunday school service without knowing this as much as you know our Father, as much as you know Thanksgiving prayer. More. These has to be remembered. We're going to talk about this. There's 3 sets of commandments. 3. Just always when you teach, this is 3 sets. The old is 2. The greatest and the 10. The new, the new is 1. The greatest are two. Okay? So we're going to talk about Moses. So again, let's review again. The first four belongs to God. The last 6 belongs to neighbor. Which ones of these will be punished by death?
1 to 5.
About 6 and 7.
1 to 6.
About 6.
Six for sure.
ثلاثة.
But Dawson.
6 for
Two.
sure, right?
About
2,
7.
6 and 7.
No, I'm
6 and
starting
7.
there.
Oh,
Six
yeah.
or more. 6.
So if somebody worship another God,
Yeah.
okay? Make yourself a carved image to worship.
It's the same.
Utter the name of the Lord your God in vain.
Yes. Yes.
Remember the Lord's day to keep it holy.
Yes.
In the beginning, this was done. So I would say all those 4, and then this one, and this one. What really, if somebody ignores his parents, would that be punished by death? What would make it punishable by death? اللي يخلي ده حكم إعدام. Yes. Anyone who curses their father and mother with witnesses. And somebody said that. That's why I told the kids. When the children come to confess, and they say to me, I yelled at my mother. I yelled at my father. I said, there's no communion this week. If they said, I said something bad to my father and mother, or I hit my mother, then I'm going to have to really give them some discipline. Because that's a mortal sin. But not to listen to them, not to, it's a sin, but it's not mortal. When it comes to cussing their parents, there's no talk about it. This is actually a mortal sin. What about murder? It is a mortal sin. Physical.
It doesn't matter if the father and mother they bad.
No, doesn't matter. They can kill their child. There's nothing against that, but it will be under murder. They can cuss and curse and do kinds of things. He's saying here, try to make them happy so that he can get a blessing. The blessing comes when the father and mother are satisfied, happy. Remember how Jacob, trying to please his father, what did he do? Food, give him himself, and Isaac felt good, so he blessed him. The opposite is true. The opposite is true. So these are the ones. So I'm going to think about the first 4. This is what we call blasphemy. I'm just going to say blasphemy. What's blasphemy? Dishonoring God at any rate. Dishonoring God in any way. Remember what Job's wife, what did Job say? Wife said to him when he was very sick. Remember what she said? It's no. I have to bless God and die. Because the Bible cannot use the other words with God. That's the other word that we should not do with parents.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other word, the Bible is not using it, but it's actually that's what she told him. Why don't you just say something bad to God and you die? So she knows. Even outside the covenant with Moses and Abraham, he knows once somebody started blaspheming, saying bad words. By the way, just to connect things together, what was the reason that flood came for? It's actually in the Jude. If you can get Jude, the letter of Jude, it will tell you what Enoch, Enoch is the grandfather of Noah. Achnuch, Metushelech, Lamech, Nuh. 4 أجيال. أخنوخ، متشالح، لامك، نوح. أخنوخ كان عنده نبوة عن الفيضان، عن الفيضان بيجي. فالنبوة اللي قالها احنا مش عندنا في الكتاب المقدس، موجودة في حاجة تانية اسمها كتاب prophecy بتاعت أخنوخ. In the prophecy of Enoch, Enoch said something. Let's look at it. It's one more chapter. Jude is one chapter. Go down.
Okay.
All the way. Here it is. It's 15, 14. What does it say? Now Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied about these men. It was in his time. Now what Jude is saying, it's the same type of people that lived in the time of Achnuch is living now. And these men, what did they say? Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment on all. What kind of judgment Akhnuk was trying to say? What was the judgment? And his time. The flood, right? To convict all who were ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds, which they have committed in an ungodly way. That's murder, adultery, enemy, dishonoring parents, and of all the harsh things which ungodly sinners have spoken against them. What does that say? Against who? The harsh things that people spoke against who?
Against God.
And against God. So this is something that will not be left alone, will not be like skipped. Once people start to blaspheme God, they're doomed. That's what Marat Ayub, the wife of Job, said. Bless God and die. That's what she's trying to say. Because they know this. They know this. So we don't take it. Sometimes people have, they're usually with mental illness. Like they come and say, I did that. I did that. And I don't know what to do now. Why did you have to do it? Why did you have to say that? Terrible. The same thing if you do that with a mother or a father. Same that if you do a killing, that's in Noah too. Man's life should be life for life. And then committing adultery also. By the way, those are going to be taken from Noah's commandments. If you remember, we talked about commandments in Noah, 7. God gave 7 commandments to Noah, and the Jews keep it. What are the commandments given to Noah? That's one, to honor God and not to have idolatry, to have idols. To honor parents, to not commit murder, and to not commit adultery. And if somebody commits murder, they should be killed. And he said one last thing is to establish courts of law. Why? There will be kings, governors who will actually take charge of. Because if God said that the murderer, the killer should be killed, who can say it? Who can say is a murderer or not a murderer? So what do you need? A judge and a court. A lawyer, a prosecutor, and they start debating and see exactly if this man has done it or not. Because nobody should be killed if he had not done anything. Please remember those. Those are extremely important. We're going to come to talk about the moral code, the Christian moral theology. You're going to have to study those. Among other groups. The first group is where you take this in second grade. We say, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your strength. What are these? Here it is. How do you love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your strength? By not having other gods, by not making yourself an image, by not uttering the name of the Lord your God. And that's why when we say OMG, just like that, it's part of this big business about blaspheming God. That to say it just like that. And I've seen priests and deacons, and I hope not bishops, do it unawares. They don't know. This is actually commanded against it. And the Jews, they know this very much. If you have to read the book, if you read the Bible, the Jewish Bible, they will not write that. They will write it actually like this. Why do they write it that way? So that no one would actually say the word. GD. They are the one who invented gosh, by the way, also, because they're very little. When people say, OM gosh, it is not really, it's to us as Christians, now in the spiritual time, we think it is the same. Because everybody knows what gosh is. Everybody knows. That doesn't really make a difference. So we should not say that at all. So again, let's remember those, commit them to memory, and then keep them in your mind. Beware, this is what God has commanded. It is not man. This is not man-made. And by the way, they don't change. Old Testament, New Testament, it's the same. When Jesus spoke the commandments, he said, he said to us to even keep it more fully. He said, murder is not just killing somebody physically, but also to hurt somebody feeling for no good reason. Adultery is not physically sleeping with someone, but actually thinking about them in a lustful way. Right? So he's not actually canceling them. What's he doing? He's reinforcing them, making them more and more deeper and more firm and more established. What did Jesus cancel from the Old Testament? I always say this, and I want sometimes maybe you can do this study together. there are three types, there's 316 commandments in Moses, but they're divided in three sections. 10 commandments, the moral. Another group is ceremonial. The third group is civil. This one, the moral, belongs to the prophets. The watch it. The prophet takes care of those. Will be standing on your heads and saying you're doing the wrong thing. Ceremonial belongs to the priest. The priest. He's the one who's going to enforce this. How about the civil? The king. He's the judge. We got that? Sometimes you overlap. You know, the civil and the moral can overlap here. Because if there is a murderer, the king has to charge him with the thing, or there is an adultery, or there is a blasphemy. So you overlap. But the king has much more to do with this. The law of the king has to do with disputes over land, houses, wife and husband. She's not cooking well for him. He wants to divorce her. The king makes sure that she gets a bill of divorce, that she can marry somebody else. That's the king, right? But this is not part of the moral. When Jesus spoke about it, he says, Moses did not give you divorce. You insisted on it, so it became part of that civil law, right? But the moral code is this. If you read the prophets, always when you read the prophets, always in your mind, remember, they're actually charging people that they break this, right? Okay. So there are 316, that's what they counted, laws in the Torah. 10 of them moral. Many of them are ceremonial, I don't know the number, and some of them are civil. What did Jesus actually cancel?
The civil.
He canceled these.
Priest. And civil.
He canceled these. Only what we left is the moral. Why? How did he cancel this? So there's a whole article, and we might find time to read that article by Jewish scholars. They said people have been making fun of our ceremonial laws. That we have to cleanse, that we have to purify, that we say a woman is unclean when she has a period. I'm making intentionally making a point. Or she has to stay 40 days or 80 days after the birth. These are things that people have made fun of it. You know, one of the best people in history that made fun of the ceremonial, not the moral. Everybody agrees with the moral, said this is perfect, but the ceremonial. About touching a dead body. So what was the thing about this? Why? So Freud, because he likes the psychology, he said these are all taboos, psychological taboos. And because the people that deep down are kind of disgusted with it, they don't want to see death, they don't want to see leprosy, so they make certain things to keep themselves like a distance. It didn't work. The rabbis didn't really think of this, and the people didn't really see it. It's not really the reason; is the psychological reason. Somebody else said, "Oh, they did these laws so that the priests can control people and keep the women away from the temple, so they don't ask to be priests." And the answer was that the case? That the priests did this to control the people, the ceremonial about the touching and the cleaning and. That didn't work because who the ceremonial law actually give the hardest time to?
The priest.
The priests. They have to do a lot of things to serve in the temple. So if the priests wanted to control the people, they would exempt themselves, but they're not exempted. They actually are having triple the amount of work to do. So what is it? They said it was not until, listen to this in the article, until the sociology solved their issue. They understood. Sociology says what? Nations and ethnic groups keep certain customs that represents the highest value. So for example, you celebrate the 4th of July, because in America the highest value is freedom. That's an example. So what is the highest value here? They said in the culture, in the Jewish culture, since Moses, I'm going to talk about Moses very soon, they felt that there is so much gap between them and God. They understood from the Torah that God created us in His image. But there are certain things that we are not like God. Not at all. What is it? He said, first and most significant is death. There is no death in God. God doesn't die. He's undying. He's eternal and everlasting. He will not die. He will never experience death. Okay, so that you want to come closer to God, you have to get rid of the dying aspect, so don't touch anybody dead. What's the second one? You said the second one, there is no sex in heaven. There is no marital relationship. Like we cannot think of that. So you want to come closer to God, you have to stay away from marital relationship for a certain time. When Moses actually is going to prepare the people to meet God, he said, no marital relationship for 3 days. Okay. The third one, he said, anything has to do with childbirth. Because actually there is no physical birth in. So these three things, dying, birth, sexuality. Because there is nothing like that in God. If you want to come closer to God, you want to really be like God, you're going to have to abandon the animal way. Okay, very good. So, for this reason, you will never, I'm just going to say this, if you go and attend a synagogue service, and if you ask them, have you ever brought the coffin? The coffin into the synagogue to pray? Absolutely not. You're crazy. Those who are going to pray, they're going to be unable to come to the synagogue for a whole day. They have to come the next day. We cannot bring the dead body here. So how come? In our church, we bring the coffin and put it where? In front of the altar. A Jewish person would say this, see this, and say, they're nuts. They're pagan. They don't know what they're doing. Not only that, but if it's a deacon or a priest or a bishop, we take him inside the altar and take around the altar. So what happened? You get that? So the ceremonial will cancel. Why? Because ceremonial is actually about the differences between us and God. And that we are not trying to cancel. But what happened? God became man. And he was born. So guess what? God has birth. And God died on the cross. Now God guess what? God has death. And God gave his body and his blood to us as a man or a woman gives her body or blood for us to have life. New life comes from this interaction. So guess what? Even sexuality is represented in the communion. That we actually, there's nothing wrong with the three. Now God has the three in them, in him. So what happened? We didn't really get to need to go to God. He came to us and canceled the three. So all the ceremonial gone. Well, what's left with is the moral. The civil has to do with the promised land. Since our promised land is not in Jerusalem, in a physical place, it's in heaven, then we don't need this, we need to follow that. That's where the law of the eternal life, that's the eternal law. That's why we have to keep that. Very, yes.
So why do we still hold on to certain ceremonial
Because we
issues?
started with the Jewish church. We started as a Jewish church. You know, if you understand the Bible when you come to the New Testament, there is a whole book about how the church had to escape the clutch of Judaism. Which book is that? Acts. The book of Acts. The whole book of Acts is not about actually the story of journeys of St. Paul. It's actually how the church is going to get out of the claws of the Pharisaical system.
But it has a lot of Jewish service inside of the church.
Absolutely, but they took the spiritual side, but they started to see the influence of the Pharisaical system, the ceremonial part on the new church, and they said cancel it.
Yeah, but can you honestly say that today, 2024, we're still trying to get away from the...
Absolutely, because we are Orthodox and are very difficult to change, and that's why they have a big heated debate in the Holy Synod about the period and communion. Basically, that's it, because there is difficulty, and I'm going to say this unfortunately. There is no other church that's dealing with this. We are. But I'll tell you why. Because I think in my mind, looking back now, our church is the most Jewish church of all the apostolic churches. We are the most Jewish. And I hear it from people that I say, yes, in a way, but there's a lot of good out of that. There's a lot of good that we are actually very rooted in Jewish, but there is some stuff that's left over, the 40 days and 80 days, the period and communion. I think that should be gone. Because we really now understand, the Jews themselves say, the period has nothing to do with purification. It is just that was a sign of separation between us and God. Now, Jesus bled to death.
Well, we take it sorry, maybe I'll go on a rant, but we take it one step further too, because there's an absolution associated with the
I
40
know.
and 80
I
days.
know, this is all Jewish.
Okay.
All Jewish. I do it for obedience. That's it. I don't do anything. I just do it in obedience and don't stress it on that much. And then the Holy Spirit, lately, that they started understanding, realized, they said, okay, it's left to the priest. Excuse
Right.
me?
Right, that's right.
Excuse me?
It's so awkward, so what do
You
you think?
understand? So our understanding of the Old Testament enriches our life and our practice of the New Testament and the service. But we need to be actually deep in researching and thinking about it. So don't take things at face value. So let's go to. So that's the question about the commandments. So what are the commandments? Are mortal sins. Mortal sins are blasphemy, cursing your parents, murder, adultery, stealing, no, false witness, no, coveting, no. Of course, coveting belongs to the New Testament, by the way. All of them are negative except two the positive ones, which are the 4 and the 5. Remember and honor. The rest of them shall not, shall no, shall not, shall not, shall not. Not. Okay? Just remember them. 4 for God. And this is the greatest commandment number 1. GC1. GC1. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your mind. GC2. Greatest commandment, second greatest commandment is
Love your neighbor as
love
yourself.
your neighbor. This is Deuteronomy 6:5. This is Leviticus 19:18. And when Jesus is asked what's the greatest commandment, he say love the Lord your God, and the second is like it, love your neighbor. But the practical aspect of it is these. Okay, let's move to the next question. Tabernacle and the golden calf. When we're gonna read, this is preparation for the study of the Mosaic covenant. Both of them represented the presence of God. When you read the story carefully, they felt abandoned when Moses left, because Moses with the communication is the prophet, communication with God. When Moses left, they felt like God is us. We have to have him. We cannot feel we're orphaned, we're alone. So what do? Bring us a God. Find a God for us that we need to run after. So Aaron said, okay, gonna kill me? Don't kill me. Here's the calf. Let us say this is God. So he represented two main religious groups. That's not it's actually two ways of securing God's presence. The human way and the divine way. And we do this in different ways. If you want to take it spiritually, we try to secure ourselves with whatever. We either have God with us to be our security, or like Abraham, or to look for something else to be our security. And always humans, one of the greatest needs of humans is security. We all need it. Some people go to money. Have you seen people collecting money by like vicious collection of money? Why? Because they are. It's security. It's like So here, Jesus speaks about it as money being a God, right? So this is a human way of securing God's presence.
That's one we struggled with, but we answered. We did it at the end.
I would just say that the Catholics, for example, the Catholics said, I want you to focus on this. Our Orthodox, the Orthodox in general, with the Septuagint, they would go this order. But the Catholics would combine those two into one. They think of it as one commandment. And they split this into two. It becomes 9 and 10. So this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is you shall not covet your neighbor's house, or his slave, or his donkey. 10, you shall not your neighbor's wife, covet your neighbor's wife. They think, okay, in the Augustine way of doing it, he said the wife should not be equated to the house and the donkey and the whatever. So they split this into two, and they say the house and the possession is one thing, but the wife is another thing, and the first two are combined. But it's still 10, right? You got this? That's the Lutheran and the Catholic. So that when you say do not bear false witnesses, commandment number,
One.
it will be in the Catholic.
8.
8. Because the last one is split in two. The first one is combined. So this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then 9 and 10. In the Hellenistic Church, fathers, do not murder is commandment number 5. No, that's in the Lutheran Church, in the Catholic Church. The rabbinic remembering count the self-identification as the first. That's true. If you go to the Jewish way of doing this, it starts by this. The first one, I am the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt. That's number 1. Number 2 is 3, 4, actually 2 and 1 and 2 is 2, and then the rest of the same. And the 5 commandments concern the relationship with God.
4 commandments.
Huh?
The correct is 4 commandments.
Say it again.
No, B. The correct answer, B.
The correct answer is
The
B.
correct is
I?
correct
B.
is C. but-
Self-identification.
As the first. That's true. That's B. Right?
Other than that, we got it.
Let's go start something here quickly. Covenant Sinai. So this is the book of Exodus. Covenant Sinai is the book of Exodus. Starts with Exodus is Shemot. Shemot, the word in Hebrew means the name, the book of names. And they have a list of people that came to Egypt with Jacob. So let's go back to the genealogy. Abraham begot Isaac, Ishmael has been cast out. Isaac got 2 sons, Esau and Jacob, they were twins. Jacob had 12 sons, and the third of them is Levi, the third. And that third son begot 3 sons, Gershon, Kohath, Merari. Kohath got 4 sons, Amram, Izhar, Hebron, Uzziah. Amram was the father of Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. Okay? So the relationship between Jacob and Aaron, or Moses, is he is
Great.
great grandfather. But there might be, that's why there is dotted line, there might be people in between. Okay, so they are from the whole point is to say that Aaron, Moses, and Miriam were the grandchildren of Levi, they're from the tribe of Levi.
It was mentioned at the time of Moses, they were killing the babies, right?
Yes,
How did Aaron escape that?
it was before, he's much older than Moses, much older.
At certain age, they go through the
Yeah, the Pharaoh came, as in the time of Aaron, the Pharaoh was not bad. It's when the Pharaoh changed. He started, actually Moses was very little, and there's a huge number of years between them. By the way, Miriam, remember how Miriam, she's not the oldest. Aaron is the firstborn. Miriam, at the time of birth of Moses, if you notice in the story, she's the one who advised the Pharaoh's daughter to take him to nurse him. So most probably Miriam is like a teenager. I wouldn't send 5-6 years old girl to do this. So you're talking about like 15 years difference. And those 15 years, Pharaoh changed. So the new Pharaoh started to realize these people are actually foreign people living in our land. We need to get rid of them. Remember how the 3 promises of Abraham, go back to the 3 promises. What are the 3 promises of Abraham? Again, keep them in mind. These are extremely important as you study the Old Testament and the New Testament. What's the 3 promises? Remember?
Great name.
Make you, our first one is to make you a great nation. Goy. What does we say? What do Goy mean? People plus
Land.
land. People plus land. So they already became great nation in Egypt.
I don't know where is it in the chapter. Is it in this chapter or some chapter?
That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
Well,
It's almost.
yeah, here it is. The fulfillment of the first promise of a nation was fulfilled in the time when God told Abraham, "No, certainly." Remember that? It's chapter 15, when we talked about the covenant of land and people, when he did the sacrifices. "No, certainly that your descendants will be strangers in a land that's not theirs, and they will serve them, and they will afflict them 400 years, and also the nation whom they serve I will judge, said the Lord." You know? Afterward, they shall come out with great possessions. What is he talking about? Your descendants will be foreign in a foreign land. talking about Israel in Egypt. Abraham is told this. The family of Jacob, they have become large body of people, and you Pharaoh persecuted the Israelites, and God prepared Moses to lead the Exodus and establish a covenant with Israel. 2 midwives, and this is interesting. You know, just keep in mind, the book is actually in Hebrew is Shemot. Okay, which is the book of names. Why? Because it starts with the name. These are the names of the Jacob of the Israelites that came to Egypt. And among this chapter, there's two names of 2 midwives. When did God really list who are the girls or the women in the Bible that names are listed? Not too many. But 2 midwives, you know midwives اللي هم الايه؟ مولدات
مولدات.
صح؟ 2 قابلات في أول إصحاح في سفر الخروج اسمهم يتذكر. Very interesting. Why? عرفانا بجميلهم اللي عملوه مع الولاد العبرانيين لأنه إيه؟ ما خافوش من الملك. 2 Hebrew midwives who did not get afraid of that. ما خافوش من الملك وقالوا طز في الملك. هو قال لنا اقتلوا الولاد مش هنقتلهم. But their names were written. Poa, Shifra, and Poa. Shifra and Poa. Their names recorded in the book of names with the children of Jacob. It's very impressive. Just pay attention to this. Is very, very, very important that the Bible doesn't mention too many names. The names that he recorded are very specific. Those women played a heroic role in protecting the male babies. Moses is saved as a baby by an act of faith of his mother. That act of faith turned to be a type of baptism. Why? Why? We always talk about that in Moses as a type of baptism. We don't talk about it much. Okay, let me give you this scenario. جايبة ابنها بتحطه في المية وبعد ما حطيته هي ما تدوش اسم خلي بالك ما تثبتوش ما تسماش وبعد ما حطيته في المية في نفس اليوم رجعت خدته تاني بس باسم جديد وبايه؟ وباي دي جديد ما بقاش ابنها بقى ابن مين؟
Pharaoh's daughter.
ابن الملك كده عن طريق المية. She used the water to change his identity and give him a name. What would that be? That's baptism. But it's a type of baptism, and it has to act of faith because she trusted in Rabbina Hamid.
Will save him.
That's it. But it's an act of faith. A mother comes to the baptism with her child. She stands there and says, "I believe." She received him back the same day with the royal identity. The burning bush encounter. Now we go to chapters 2, 3, and 4. God instructed Moses to take off his sandals as shoes as he was approaching the bush because it's important. That's what we need to remember. Before we come closer to God, we have to do this. Maybe we shouldn't do the ceremonial, but we should do what? The respect, that we prepare ourselves. That's why I think it's important. أنا أحضر الأولاد الصبح وهم رايحين كنيسة أديهم قرش شيء حاجة يحطوها في الصندوق. اتاكد ان هم صايمين، اتاكد ان هم لابسين كويس، انبه عليهم ما يتحركوش في الكنيسه، بنحضرهم لايه؟ هي كلها قصه ان موسى قال له اعمل ايه؟ اطلع ما عليك، انا رايح اقابل ربنا، اقابله ازاي؟ ونيجي في قصه يوحنا ازاي، عشان كده انا بهتم موضوع اللبس. في يوحنا لما بطرس عرف ان ربنا على الشط عمل ايه؟ ستر نفسه، غطى نفسه عشان عارف انه رايح يقف قدام المسيح. وبعدين قال له 5 اعتراضات موسى في المقابله دي 5. موسى اعترض على ربنا 5 مرات. اول مره قال له ايه؟ قال له انا مين؟ شعر بايه؟
بالقلة.
صغر نفس بالقله انه قله. فربنا رد عليه وقال له ايه؟ قال له I will certainly be with you. مش انت، انا هبقى معاك. السؤال الثاني او الاعتراض الثاني انت مين؟ انا ما اعرفش لما اروح لهم انت انهي واحد فيهم؟ انهي جاد؟ ما احنا في مصر عندنا meet God. What's his name? What shall I say to him? And the Lord said, I shall say to the children of Israel, I am who I am. لما نيجي نترجمها الجماعه اليهود لما بيترجموا القصه دي يقول لك انا ساكون ما ساكون. مش انا كائن، هي ممكن تتفهم كده برضه بس الفيرب العبراني الفعل ساكون ما ساكون. I will be what whom shall I be. What does it mean? الاسم بيدي لما حد يسألك اسمك ايه عايز ايه؟
اتعرف عليك.
اتعرف.
اتعرف عليك.
فهنعرف ربنا ازاي؟ ما هو حاجه غريبه برضه انك تسال ربنا تقول له انا عايز اتعرف عليك، هديك اسمك وتعمل ايه؟ نعمل ايه بالاسم؟ يعني ايه بالظبط ده يعني؟ واحد مش قبل كده يقول لك اسمه على التليفون، بيتكلم على التليفون ورد عليك حد من الكاستمر سيرفيس. واتس يور نيم سير؟ عشان يبص على الكمبيوتر يشوف لو انت عندك كريدت ما عندكش وات ايفر بقى لو عايز تشوفه. فالنيم بيقول لي ان انا عايز ايه؟ اعرف حاجه عنك. فايه اللي هيقول ربنا يعرفه عنه؟ تفتكروا ايه اللي هيقوله ربنا عشان موسى ولا شعب اسرائيل يعرفوا؟ فبقول لهم انا اللي هو هتعرف اعرفك انا مين.
اعرفك انا مين، اوريك.
هو بالظبط كده.
بصراحة ده شعب إسرائيل ده كعقاب
هو لا ده هتشوفي دلوقتي هو قال له انا هوريك انا مين. ايه اللي عمله ربنا بعد كده؟
العجائب اللي عملها معاه.
بوم 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 بوم. وهو عمل البوم بوم دي ليه؟ لما نشوف الضربات ما لازم نفهم الضربات دي ضد آلهة المصريين. فعايز يقول لهم ايه؟ ان انا اعظم من
آلهة المصريين
كل اللي بيعبدوه ده. ضرب النيل ليه اول حاجه؟ ليه النيل اتضرب؟
عشان بيعبدوا النيل. كان في إله النيل. كان
النيل كان إله، كانوا بيعملوه عروس النيل. كان في الأقصر عندنا في محطة القطر صورة تعبان يوم دياني.
عروس
جايبين
النيل.
بنت جميلة كده وملبسينها مزوقينها حاطينها على المركب اللي هي زي بتاعت
يس.
وخلاص بيسألوه وطبعا الدين مليان تماسيح.
يا عيني.
أيوة عروس النيل ده كان كل سنة دي.
حاطينها هنا ليه؟ المهم انا عايز اقول هو بيقول له كده ليه؟ بيقول له ان انا هتشوفني you will know who I am by my power in Egypt against me.
The Pharaoh.
The job.
Like Egypt gods.
The gods.
Yeah.
The worship. فهو he struck the cattle. Why the cattle? Because they worship the
Yeah, the king.
العجل العبيس.
Yeah.
They worship the cattle. عشان كده for them Israelites were not really good people because they were killing the cattle and eating it. They worship the Nile. They worship the frogs. They worship the sun. And he created the last one, the biggest God is actually the sun. When he made the darkness, this was very hurtful, very painful. And they went to the priest and I'm sure they said, what happened? Where is Amun? Where is Atun? What happened? Where is him? What happened? Okay, but it's all against the gods of Israel. He said that. He said it specifically. I will do miraculous things and against the gods of Egypt. Okay. The second one, the second temple period, the Jews began to avoid uttering the name Yahweh and was substituted by Adonai for reverence. No. The next one is no credibility. But suppose they will not believe me or listen to my voice. Suppose they say the Lord has not sent you what you say. The number 3. Yeah. Number 3. الاعتراض الثالث. لو قالوا ان انت بتكذب علينا قدام. بتكذب علينا. هقول لهم ايه؟ He said, أنا هديك signs. I'll give you signs. Take your staff, throw it on the floor, on the ground, and turns into a snake. Pick it up, it turns into stuff. Put your hand in your bosom and dig it out, it'll be white as snow. Put it back, it becomes normal. The next one is number 4. Actually, the numbering is wrong. There's one in the middle that's number 3 is wrong. No skill of speech. Oh my Lord, I'm not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken. ليه بيقول له أنا مش راجل بتاع كلام؟ حد عارف ليه؟ A Jewish tradition. This is not in the Bible. Stuttering. Why would people stutter?
I think this is some.
Scared.
A lack of confidence, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they mostly when they stutter when they are little kids, maybe second year, they're picked on.
Yeah.
Somebody picks on them, so they get afraid to speak. They start to hesitate. Why do you think Moses had this?
The Egyptians.
Most probably المصريين فظاع
أثروا عليه.
طلعوا عين اللي جابوه. لأنه هو كان عبراني. Most probably he was a little bit nice looking because that's what the Bible is saying.
Sure.
So the kids, the Egyptian dark-skinned kids, start looking at him as different. So they picked on him in the palace, which actually protected him. ليه? Imagine if Moses' life was easy in the palace, and he was really a prince, like we say, prince. He's not a prince.
He wouldn't
What
have
would
left.
happen?
He wouldn't have left. He wouldn't have defended the Israelites.
Absolutely not. I'm thinking he grew with a vengeance. He grew with a lot of anger against the Pharaoh place, I'm sure. Because when he got the chance, he killed the Egyptian because he felt he never lost his identity as a Jew. Never. And the reason why, because God put him in a place, which is like all God's work. You think about it. He puts him in a place when he's not comfortable. He's not comfortable at all. That's why I say, put your kids in a school they're comfortable with, and they're happy they don't make a noise, I get worried. They get a little bit uncomfortable, if I'm talking about public schools. You get uncomfortable and they're always like, then I'm okay. Absolutely. Because I'll tell you something. If somebody gets an infection and has no fever, do you think the doctors will be happy?
No.
Why?
Because his body is not.
There's no immunity.
Yeah.
So God puts Moses there to develop immunity against Egypt. Against Egypt. He doesn't belong. He doesn't think of it. He never thought of himself as Egyptian. Never.
Why did they spare him then, if his identity was so obvious?
The girl, the daughter of Pharaoh, she most probably is barren. I imagine the story like this, so but just bear with me. I'm gonna stop here. I imagine the story like this. It was a summer during the flood of the Nile. And the flood of the Nile is the blood of the God. So the God is actually bringing what? Bringing
Gift.
fertility. So the women who has no fertility, they go to bathe in the Nile to start having
Children.
The God giving us, if God makes the land fertile and brings a lot of fruit, women go to bathe in it to get children. You get that? So all of a sudden there's a baby in the water. She says, I don't need to worry about it. It's ready. So she's so excited about it.
That was easy, guys.
You understand, if you think about it, this is how it happened. So she's going to be very attached to the gift of, and she tells her father, that's a gift of the river God. I'm not going to let him go. And if he kills him, this is going to be a big offense. So he's killing the child of Moshe. They say the name is not Hebrew, it's actually
It's Coptic, yeah.
Egyptian. Means
Out of the water.
out of the water.
Yeah.
That's Pharaoh. That's ancient Egyptian.
Yeah.
Moses is not a Hebrew name. And the Jews would say it in their Bible, they said that's not a name we understand. This is not something, it's not our language, it's a foreign language. So it was named by
Pharaoh's daughter.
the daughter of Pharaoh. So you put things together, you understand that actually she thinks that Moses was given to her by the water of the river, the God, whom is going to be the first thing to be struck. And it's irony. The first thing, so here, the woman puts Moses in the water, she's inspired. The water becomes baptism for Moses. The same water that is the water of the God of the Egyptians, that will be turned into blood in the first plague.
And he splits the water.
Yeah. And he baptized, so he first gets baptized, then baptized the whole nation. But he has to be baptized first. So that's, I think, the story of Moses as I see it. But there's something there about him protected from being an Egyptian. God did. Sometimes we think God is doing, why is God doing this to me? And I'm sure Moses heard from his mother, because she spent time with him talking about God saving people. He says, why is God not saving me from Pharaoh? I'm even stuttering. I cannot talk because they picked on me when I was little. And why is that? And then he understands that he's not actually does not belong to Pharaoh. He doesn't belong to Egypt. He thought of himself always as a Hebrew, belongs to the Israelites, belongs to the tribe of Jacob. And when it's time for him to come and leave, it was easy. I really don't want to be here. I don't belong. I never belong.
He even thought of it himself. Before God gave him the mission, he thought of it himself. And he said, let me go save the Israelites. And he started to take action, but God told him.
From all his life, from his youth.
Yeah.
But it's heartbreaking to think of it. Like he's taken from his family to grow up in a foreign place who hated him. But there's one more thing. The last thing that Moses would say, I'm quitting. Just go find somebody else. After God solved his problems. So it says that God's anger heated against Moses. What do you mean by God's anger heated? What happened? I'm imagining again. I like to imagine the story. So he's standing in front of that, maybe kneeling, in front of the burning bush, and there's fire. What does happen when you have fire and
Fire grows big.
anger is heated? What do you heated? What does that mean?
هب في وشك من الاخر يعني ملهاش كلمه تانية يعني هب في وشك
احنا معمولين على صورة مين؟ ربنا. فبعد شوية لما العيل ينهد معاك مرة واثنين وثلاثة وتقعد تفهم ومش عايز تعمل ايه في الآخر.
هتهب في وشك
فربنا هب في وشه. يعني قال موسى انا بحبك وكل حاجة بس يعني 5 مرات 5 مرات
ما بلاش ترجمة تاني.
واقول لك هحله لك اطلع لك عذر اطلع لك عذر وانا عايزك تروح لا هتروح بقى.
Give us the threshold now. It's 4 times and then in the first.
You can see that. Absolutely. It's so fast. Jesus will our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. In Christ Jesus our Lord. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, and forever. We love God, the Father, grace and only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, who fellowship with us, that he is Please memorize the 10 commandments. Please take a shot of this in the camera and memorize them. If you can, I'm going to ask you to do it next time.